you take all the tough ones.
I will.
Okay.
Do you feel better than you did in April when you quoted the registrar saying, I'd be worried about that?
Dramatically better. And as Mark said, we had the State Board of Elections Commissioner, Susan Beals, was there with three other members of the state board. And they laid concerns on the table, but they also said compared to the election last October, in 2023, big state elections, they're much better communication, they're seeing fewer problems.
And actually, the worst of the decline was not in July of 23, but it was in that October timeframe. So we had a double whammy of a new system, and one of the things, and I think Jen or Abigail will speak to this, is that we assume every piece of mail is postmarked. It's not. So one of the things, if you're getting close to the deadline and go to the post office, ask them to postmark it as opposed to being just dropped in the...
All right, thank you, guys.
Well, it was a really interesting and important meeting to talk through really some of the efforts that the Postal Service has made. Importantly, they walked us through the entirety of the delays that they've experienced, the changes that they've made and how they structure mail going through the system, which I think it would have been valuable, and we communicated this, if there had been much more clarity along the way about these delays. But they were very forward-leaning in understanding why it is that we're concerned, particularly about election mail. It was wonderful to have the Commissioner of Elections there as well. She asked some pointed and important questions. And really, the outline of how they see election mail going through the process was helpful to understand. Right now, the average time for a ballot to go through the mail, whether it's going from outbound from the registrar to the voter and then back in, the average time for that is 2.18 days, which is a relatively fast turnaround time. One of the things that they did make us aware of is starting in October, late October, October 21st, they start employing what they call extraordinary measures, and this is something that they do across the country, where any efforts that can be made to expedite ballots moving through the post office and the postal system is done, to include if mail comes into a post office and then that post office on its regular route also goes to the registrar, that just goes point to point. It doesn't go through the processing system. Importantly, not all mail is postmarked, which is an important element of the discussion. Particularly, the purpose of that postmarked and the cancellation is to cancel the stamp. Well, in Virginia, if we don't require any additional postage, there's no need for a cancellation. So oftentimes that mail with the prepaid postage is not moving through those machines that do that cancellation and postmark. And so there's a couple options there. One, there are barcodes, so it's tracked when it goes through the system, and the elections officials, if they want to understand when a piece of mail moved through the system, they can use that. For those who may want to ensure that their mail is postmarked, and particularly if you are putting it in the mail closer to Election Day, making sure that that is hand-stamped. They make an effort, anything during those extraordinary measures, October 21st and on, they work to ensure that it's all getting postmarked, even if it doesn't need that postmark cancellation. Any individual can walk into the post office. If you are mailing your ballot at the last minute, you can walk into the post office, you can walk right up to the counter and ask to see your ballot hand canceled. Both for the effectiveness of ensuring that that hand cancellation is there, but also for kind of voter peace of mind. That is something that they stress to us.
Postmark. It's not canceling.
Oh, excuse me, not canceling ballots. That's a very good point. Hand postmarked. Hand postmarked. So that that date is readily available and viewed, hand postmarked. They can do that with a stamp right there at the post office. Importantly, the earliest that someone, if you know you want to vote by mail now, request your ballot now, mail it back now. It's incredibly important that we do everything possible to ensure that we're not putting unnecessary stressors on the system. We have many Virginians who are currently serving overseas, and of course their ballots are going to be taking longer to go out and taking a little bit longer to come in. And the more that those who might be voting for mail, by mail locality, right back to their local registrar the earlier we can send those ballots back in, the better it is for the rest of the system. But certainly we had some aggressive questions. Certainly the Postmaster General and his entire team was there to talk through the responses that they've made and a lot of the proactive efforts, not just on the delivery of mail, but the security of our elections across the board and their heightened attention to any sort of crimes that may be occurring, to include the investigations of some of the white powder envelopes that have been sent to election officials, the type of aggressive and potentially threatening efforts utilizing the mail to potentially impact elections officials. They walked us through those investigations as well. So it was an important conversation. The takeaways were, I think they are focused on it just as much as we are. We're continuing to see improvements as it pertains to regular mail. There's still improvements to be made as it relates to regular mail, but certainly they instilled in me a fair amount of confidence that the attention to ballots and election-related mail is certainly there, and it is separate and apart from any of the changes that they're making with the regular processing of mail. And now it is my great pleasure to turn it over to the Congresswoman whose district we are currently